Yo, welcome to the Motoring Club in LA, or welcome back, I should say, to the Motoring Club in LA. This is the Cars and Kicks podcast. I am Jacques Slade. I am the sneakerhead guy here on the podcast. I know a little bit about cars, not as much as these three guys. I know how to drive mine, and that's I know a little more than that. I know how to change my brakes. I've changed my brakes.
Oh, you did? You did that on YouTube once?
I did it on for the world to see, so they could see the mistakes that I made.
You know to say Porsche and not Porsche?
I do. I know that now because
It's hilarious
because I've been corrected a
There's
couple
that
of
license
times.
plate. If you need to reference, look at that license plate there.
Yeah, it's very clear. Porsche, not the other way around.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Really got a really great show for you today. I'm only one part of this podcast. These two, they really hold this podcast down. Nick, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Nick Engvall. I am I don't want to say better half of both Cars and Kicks because that means these guys are less than.
Own it.
Just
Just
all
own it.
equal
Yeah,
here.
he is.
But I was referred to as the X in Cars and Kicks in a recent episode, so that's
Yes.
where I'm going to stick with. But Erik, tell them about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Erik Valdez. I'm kind of more of the car guy here between all of us. But no, you are the X. You are the ampersand.
The ampersand.
The Hall & Oates ampersand. Thanks to Jared Deanda. That is how we will forever refer to you now, Nick.
That's hilarious.
No, we are the Cars and Kicks show, and we are here at the Motoring Club. You might have seen a few episodes where we got to record here while I was in LA, while Nick was in LA, and that is big thanks to this guy right here, our final guest at the Motoring Club for now. We're trying to work out a deal where we do this on the regular. But Michael Rapetti, welcome to the Cars and Kicks show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead,
so
Jacques.
Michael,
He's got a
I'm
lot
going to
of
kick
questions.
this off right away because I have a ton of questions.
All right.
So I'm a sneaker guy and I have a sneaker collection. I imagine you're a car guy and you have car collections, but what made you want to do that for everybody?
Right to the point. Boom.
So what's interesting, Cars and Kicks related, was I've always been a sneakerhead, a sneaker collector, and always wanted to be a car collector.
Oh.
So I actually was more of a sneaker collector than a car collector when I started the Motoring Club. But I've always been a car enthusiast, always been passionate about cars. I feel like, collecting, I've always, baseball cards growing up, then it was sneakers. I grew up in New York City, that sneaker culture in the 90s, that like adrenaline rush of waiting in my first line, like a Foot Locker. And then, growing up in New York City, not the typical place for a car enthusiast to get their start. Was riding the subway and, didn't drive a car until, college. But then, after college, I moved west to Colorado and then San Francisco. And that, kind of always grew up loving cars. My family, both my mom and my dad were super into cars.
Nice.
And so, when I moved out west, kind of got that start of wanting to get deeper into cars. And it was that desire for finding community that led me to eventually start Motoring Club. So I think most people assume I started the Motoring Club, so I must have a massive car collection. And most people walk in here and they see the 25 cars in the storage room and they say, how many of these are yours? And I say 0. So I was more of the businessman. I was had the dream, the inspiration for wanting to create a space where people like me who were getting into the car world could find community, learn, and, go from hopefully one car to many cars. So for me, I'm kind of the business owner that is kind of living the dream, looking to increase the collection. And over the 6 years that I've been running the club, I now have a nice group of beat up cars. So.
that sounds like every car person
high
I
number
talk
of
to.
cars now. Overall value still could use some.
I feel like I hear that all the time. The more I learn about car people, it's like, I have like 5 cars, but like 4 of them don't run, or they're beat up, or it works in progress.
Talking about.
No, it's
He's
not. It's
talking
not
about
you. Not you. Let's do the sneaker thing.
Yeah.
I know you have on ones today, and the last time I saw you, I forgot you had on a nice pair as well.
I remember.
What's the sneaker collection like?
So I'm primarily an Air Max guy.
Okay.
So ones and 90s,
Yeah.
kind of the majority of the collection. 97s have been sneaking their way in. And yeah, it started when I was a kid, because in the 90s, there weren't that many options for kids. And I remember
That's true.
a pair of Air Max 180s. You could only get them in adult size.
Yeah.
And I was like at a shoe store with my mom, and I was like, I want those. My foot wasn't big enough. And I was like, how big does it need to get so that I can buy these? And I remember thinking
Size
like,
6.
like mom, like how fast can my foot grow? And so I don't know. It was like something about Air Maxes in the 90s when I was growing up was just like so cool. So I feel like as an adult, I dove into it. So
Do you own that Air Max 180 now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Multiple. Anytime they just re-released it again, got another pair of the OG. But yeah, so ones, 90s, 97s, and then of course living the sneaker culture in New York City, Jordans for me, has always been there. So ones, threes, and fours.
Okay.
On the Jordan side for me.
That's about me too. I'm a ones primarily. That's what I'm wearing today. I've always loved Jordan 1s, but 3s and 4s. Dabble in maybe some 11s or something here and there. But yeah, I had a similar story when I was growing up. My first pair of like dope sneakers were, we've talked about this before, but they were Jordan 4s, the military blue, gray, white colorway. And that was because that was the first time, that my dad started making decent enough money to shop somewhere other than Payless. And B, because my foot finally grew into, they didn't have kid size back then. This was the first time my foot grew into something that I could buy. So I share in that whole experience with you. It was the pain of not being big enough just yet, But so I'm trying to remember what year it was, because I was one of the early members to your first location there when I lived out here. I don't live out here anymore, but that would have been what year? I couldn't remember. That was 7 years ago? I think you just said that.
2019.
19. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think I'm like, maybe just the end of 2018 going into 2019. Because we were in business for 9 months before COVID hit. So that's why I always think of like, when did I start? It was 9 months before March 2020.
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez.
So yeah, you were part of the OG crew.
Yep.
Where like those were fun days where I was just like, all right, I have this idea. I want to create this community. I met so many great people like yourself when I moved out here, and was inspired by like, all right, there's enough of us. We're all passionate.
Yeah.
Let me just like find a space and just pull the trigger, and kind of if I build it, hopefully they'll come.
They will
and
come.
so thank you for the support early days of like, I got that warehouse and I was like, okay, let's see if this will work. And
It's cool to see what it's evolved to, because early on it was kind of this fusion, and you still do store a few cars for people, but early on it was this fusion of like car storage, because that is a thing that is necessary for a lot of folks here in LA. Again, we've talked a lot about the Southern California car culture and people out here. There's a lot of people that do make enough money to afford a lot of these cool cars, but they don't have a place for them. So that was kind of early on. I remember half of the warehouse being like storage. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but that kind of at least helped offset the costs while the members slowly trickled in. And now it seems like between this location and San Francisco, seems like that has completely flipped. Like, I see so many people in here. It's like just working on their laptops, or having a little meeting with their friends, or in the little trailer out there, like having a Zoom session or something. And it's this community that you talked about building early on, really has come to fruition. And it's cool. Now that I'm not here, unfortunately, I get to come back into town every now and then and see, what it's evolved to. And it's super cool. So like, what is the feeling now that you're kind of seeing this idea become reality and become a successful reality? Like, how does that make you feel? Is it like, hell yeah, I knew this all along? Or are you like, is it a big breath of fresh air? Like, okay, maybe we can expand from here. Or as an entrepreneur, I've always wondered, when do you get to that point where it all kind of clicks and starts to feel comfortable, I guess?
I think, I definitely have like a sense of relief that,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, I can breathe, like it's working. But I definitely have that like stubborn entrepreneurial feeling of like, I knew it all along and like, I wouldn't have taken the risks and dropped everything, to try this if I wasn't pretty sure I could figure it out. But it's definitely a relief that, I figured out in a business sense how to make it work, because like I knew like, okay, I could have fun, create this community, and like I think I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just grateful that I've been able to figure out and allowed the business to naturally evolve to a point that is now sustainable. Because I think in the beginning, it was easiest to pencil car storage, because it's like, cool, I have a warehouse, this amount of square feet, this is what I pay in rent, this is how many cars I can fit.
Right.
Okay, cool. Like the beginning calculations were super rudimentary of like, okay, cool, if I can pay the rent with the cars that are in here and then sell some membership and do some events, then I'll figure the rest out.
Yeah.
And then it evolved from storage being the number one revenue stream to now the last.
Yeah.
So it in the beginning, my whole philosophy was I'm building a community, and it's the community that will decide where the company goes.
Sure.
I have certain ideas, I have a vision, but at the end of the day, I'm just the steward for the community. And as it grows and people start contributing and doing things, then I'll just be a good listener and figure out where the company should go. And so, got thrown the curveball with COVID.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing to come out of COVID was, I was safe because people still needed to store cars.
Right.
Sure.
And then once things opened up, everyone's like, hey, you got this big warehouse. I'm sick of the house. Can I come work here? And so I didn't start as a co-working space, but COVID kind of pushed me into that world. And then as I saw the space teeming with people taking meetings on laptops, I was like, oh, this is good energy. I think I'm going to focus more on the social side and, be more of a co-working space and a coffee spot during the day to have that kind of constant energy. And I realized that when you're running just a storage facility, you have a small group of customers. Even this massive warehouse, I have 25 cars in here that are owned by 10 or 12 different people.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, those are 12 people that I can help with a problem.
Right.
But I've always been someone that wants to, touch more people and, build a bigger community.
Sure.
So the social side of things and being a co-working space and hosting Cars and Coffee, that allowed me to bring in more people into the community. And that led to opening the coffee shop. And that was the biggest piece, where I was doing these private events and, sharing stuff on Instagram, and people would be like, oh man, I wish I could just come and see the cars or just come have a coffee. And so, I wanted to also have an element to the business where there was a public facing piece where anyone could come and enjoy some piece of what we were building.
Right.
Yep.
And so that was the full evolution of private car storage facility servicing a small group, all the way to now 6 years later, where that's part of it and it provides some cool eye candy and, kind of a nice base. And then the coffee shop now welcomes in, tens of thousands of people who can come in, have a coffee, and see some cars. So it's a fun thing where it's evolved to have both private and public, which makes me feel pretty good.
Yeah. What would you say the number one thing with all of these changes? You've gone through a lot as a business owner, not just the growth of the company itself and how it evolves, but the pandemic and everything like that. Like what have you learned from this experience? What's something that you could take away to other potential entrepreneurs or young kids that are wanting to get into following a dream or build a business of their own? Because it seems like there is a new wave of the next generation not wanting to work for other people, wanting to follow their dreams, but not having any idea of how they're going to do it. So what's something that you've learned that you could share with those folks?
That's a good question. I mean, I think I've definitely learned that you have to really know what you're getting into. You know, I think I always laugh and see like some funny memes of like, oh, I ditched my 9 to 5 to be my own boss, and now I work 24/7. And that's kind of sums it up.
Yeah.
Where it's like you want to start your own business, like even if you think, oh, I can balance it and have this, like you have to kind of know that you're signing up for complete, giving up your life for this thing, and that it's a rock going down the hill. Like you're on it. I can't just be like, okay, I'm just gonna step away for a little bit. But like you realize like to make it work, you have to do so many of the things.
Yeah.
And it's like 6 years later, there's events I'm still like taking out the trash and like cleaning the bathrooms, and it's like even though you grow, you still have to do so much of the work to make it work.
Yeah.
And in today's world, especially with a physical business, with the costs of everything,
Sure.
There's a new challenge every month. So I think you just have to have like a tough skin, and you have to like go into it with like true passion. That like, I don't care. I'm not doing it for the money. I am doing it because this is the life I want, and this is going to make me happy, whether it succeeds or not. And then it's like, if you go in with that attitude, then, chances are you can make it work. But
I remember witnessing some of those challenges, like just through conversations with you when you were coming to this spot, the build out, the delays, the permitting issues, all of that stuff. I mean, I think you had an original date that you wanted to open, and it ended up being how many months post that original date?
I missed my goal by a year.
Yeah.
And that was one of those like, I was stubborn, and I was like, nope, I'm gonna do this in a year. And everyone's like, double your time frame, double your budget. And what happened? I had to double my time frame and double my
Double your budget.
So it was true, but that was, there was a good chance the company would have folded. It was like touch and go because of permitting and all these issues that the building was just sitting here with nothing.
I remember that
for so many months. So it's one of those things where I was like, man, I chose to really build something in a tough space. I was like, I wish I was like an engineer, created a website, something. Why did I have to like create something that required a 20,000 square foot warehouse and the city of LA cooperation? You
know what though? It's super cool because one thing you alluded to is the events that you hold here now. Like this has evolved into an event space and everything. And we all came to one last year that was right up our alley with our homies over at Hype East, and them doing kind of the hype drive and everything like that. They did a Cars and Kicks event. I want to say that they named that after our show. We cannot confirm or deny that. But it was, it's really cool to see not only, the day-to-day of the people coming in to get coffee, and some of them really love the car, some of them could care less, but it's something to look at other than, your average coffee shop out there, like a bunch of plants or whatever. But then to see like a big event with a big group of people and have like Lean Customs doing pins and like, you selling your own merch and like all these dope, like little art expositions really, or with the sneakers and the cars and how they tie together. Like events like that are super cool. And I feel like that is, I don't know the business model, but it feels like that seems to be the exciting part, at least from a consumer standpoint of where you're going with the Motoring Club. And is that kind of the case?
Yeah, totally. And I think, part of it was, in the COVID times, it was like you have to get creative and you have to figure out like, all right, I got to be nimble and I have to have multiple revenue streams because I don't know what's going to happen in the world next year. And so I think a lot of how the business has evolved was, you look at it, it's like at a basic level, like I'm paying rent on this space, 24 hours a day. how do I get revenue into this space morning, day, and night?
Yeah.
And so, naturally it was like, okay, cool. Well, we close during the day, but at night, let's throw some events. And so we'd throw our own events, and then, a couple brands early days came to us, and
Yep.
we were lucky enough. We did the launch of the new Corvette.
I remember
C8,
that. Yeah.
like early days. And it was like, it worked out well, but behind the scenes, it was like a mess. And I was like, wow, I learned a lot, but like, wow, I did not think I'd be able to do like a global car launch in the space. And then I realized like, this is fun. Like, create a cool, inspiring space, and then, just bring some interesting people and brands into it and kind of let it do its thing. So it's been fun. Obviously, it's a car club. A lot of the events are with car brands, but it's been fun. I've always had a bunch of different interests. So being able to work with different people and brands to, combine the interests and bring different things into the space makes it fun. And so that it's not a stagnant thing where it's just like, cool, it's just another car event or same type of cars. But yeah, the Cars and Kicks event with Hype Beast and Jeff Staple, that was like culmination of like, man, as like a kid, if I could have dreamed it, like to be able to be hosting an event with my two favorite things, Cars and Kicks, that was special. So
that's awesome.
And then 2 months ago, we did like a month-long takeover with Nike for Air Max month day.
Yeah.
And so that again, and I had like childhood friends reaching out to me, and they're like, dude, like, are you serious? Like, this is it. You've done it. And I was like, yeah,
that's cool.
I'm good now. So
Yeah. One thing that the most memorable thing about that Cars and Kicks event for me was you kind of pulled like the equivalent of like the sneakerhead reverse Uno card, because those kind of events you would think Pata Air Max 1s, Jordan 1s, traditional things. And you wore Michael Chang Reebok Court Victory pumps. And I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. You know? So what else in the sneaker world beyond the Air Max? Like I know the obsession is the Air Max.
Yeah.
But
it was like Air Max, because my earlier story about, growing up, that was just the silhouette. It was cool. But practically, I grew up as a tennis player. And so Andre Agassi, Michael Chang, Pete Sampras, I think before that, like Air Max obsession, that Chang Reebok pump was the first one that I actually was like, this is functional. I want it, and it's cool.
Love that.
And so, I think it was, it must have been around like 2008, 2009. And I came across a pair. I think they must have done a release back then.
Yeah.
And so I bought a pair then. And that kind of like my like sneaker obsession, 2008, 2009, is when I kind of like picked up some steam right around there.
Yeah.
And so they re-released them last year. And so I had a fresh pair in the box. So I unboxed them for that event. That was
Nice.
That's such a cool moment.
Yeah.
The sneaker world obviously has a very young demo for the most part. Do you see that in the motoring world as well? Like when in this club, do you feel like you get a younger audience as well?
Yeah, part of my goal when I started it was there were other motoring clubs, car clubs out there, but to me, a lot of them were older and stuffier. Yep. And so it was, again, one of those things where like I was creating this club for myself and people like me.
Yeah.
And I was someone that, I didn't have a ton of money. I had enthusiasm and I wanted to learn more. And so my goal was to create a space for people that were younger, that had different interests. And it wasn't just, how many Ferraris did you own, or, or all that. And I also wanted it. Part of the idea with like co-working and everything was this isn't just a lounge for people who are retired. Like this is an active space for people to network, to do work. And so, I'm definitely proud that our demo, we've got all ages, all demos.
Yeah.
I think between both clubs, it's actually pretty even, like mid-30s is
Okay.
like average age.
Yeah.
So we've got full spectrum. But that's always been the goal, to make sure that, like, you know, appealing to younger enthusiasts, making it more accessible. You know, these old cars, like, gotta keep it alive with the younger folks.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Do you get inquiries still now that it's more of like a social club? Do you still get inquiries like, hey, can you store this for me? Is that still a big part of the?
It
You
is.
said it's the lowest revenue driver now. But
Yeah.
how much are you getting interest in those?
Still a ton. So we do have like a long wait list for storage. And so what I think is pretty interesting is that if I look at the last 6 years, the majority of folks who store cars with us, they're the least active from a social standpoint. So it really
Interesting.
is like two separate businesses.
Yeah.
So when someone new comes in and they're interested in storing a car, and I talk to them about, okay, why did you come to us? You know, what about our facility, the social stuff, anything? I realize that they just want storage. So it's like, you want to store your car, but you're not going to come to the events. You're not going to work out of here.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that we still do get a lot of requests, but, you know, we try to prioritize those folks that want both.
Yeah.
You know, they want to store their car here, and they're doing that because it's on display, and they want to be able to come here and show their friends.
For sure.
And, you know, hang out. Because that was always my idea was, you know, most car storage facilities, they have car covers on them. They're hidden.
Right.
And I was like, no, I'm going to put these cars on display because I assume that, you know, you want to show them off and you want to bring friends around them.
Yeah.
So I think now we're just a little more selective of the cars and the people that store them here is like, hey, you got to be, you know, you want to share this with everyone as well.
Jacques asking because he has an Infinity that a project car, possible project car that he wants to store.
2006 M35.
There
Don't
you
hate.
go.
Don't hate.
Yeah. Yep.
No, man, it is cool to see all that. And I love that aspect of it. I always have, like, even at your old location, you could just peer through the windows and like see everything, and it would change. You know, it would be, you'd see a Testarossa, which you've got one out here too, but, or, you know, some brand new something or another, or like an old Alpha or whatever. And I love the diversity, you know, in that, and the fact that it is, even if it's not being driven, which we all wish cars would be driven more, it's not tucked away somewhere. It's still exhibiting. It's being, you know, at least kind of exhibited as a piece of art or something for others to see, instead of just being shoved away in a garage under a cover or whatever.
Yeah. It's like my philosophy with cars. It's the same with sneakers.
Yep.
And every pair of sneakers I have in my place, I've worn.
Yeah.
So I'm the type. There's nothing in boxes. There was the
Changs.
Chang pumps.
Yeah.
Those, and right now I think I have another pair of Chang pumps in the box. Those are the only ones that stay in the box, even though they're like not worth anything. It's like, I'm sure I could get them for under retail on StockX right now.
Yeah.
But everything I wear, so it's like everything. It's like there's dirt on it.
Yeah.
I like to enjoy them, and it's same with cars.
Yeah.
It's like I would never buy anything with low miles. I like stuff that's been repainted. So it's kind of the same.
Live
as
the life.
The cars that are in the club. It's like we have really cool stuff in here. It would attract people with cool stuff, but it's not the museum garage queen stuff.
Right.
So it's kind of a overall philosophy of like, you know, enjoy your stuff.
I mean, you do even have like one other side of revenue stream, so to speak, is like you don't have a massive rental fleet, but you do have some really cool cars here that are available to, you know, members to come in for the weekend. Like for example, I, you know, contemplated taking the new 911 and 997 that you got this weekend, but I got my 7-year-old with me and the car was out, I think, anyway. But what do you have in that fleet? Like that you wouldn't, because you can't go to an Enterprise and rent like a speed yellow 997 cab for the weekend, you know?
Really? No. Huh. Weird.
Yeah. What do you have right now?
That piece of the business is like one I want to grow, but it's been the hardest
Okay.
to figure out, because one interesting thing about building a community and like nurturing it is, you know, I always want to listen and I ideas from people.
Yeah.
But now between both locations, we're at, over 750 members. And obviously everyone's got their own ideas.
Sure.
When you listen to too many, then you're like, wait, I got
Yeah, it's too much happening.
So with the rental fleet, I always wanted to have a couple cars that members could rent. And I wanted them to be like interesting enthusiast cars. And I would price the daily rental lower than they should be. So that it was kind of like this exciting perk.
Yeah.
And my thought was that, this was a part of the business I didn't need to make money on. I just tried to cover costs, make it a benefit. And so over the years, we've had a total variety of things, but it's been interesting of the stuff that I thought would be popular or that like some members would request, like, oh, you got to get this. And then no one would drive it. And so it's really been this interesting dilemma of like, okay, what's the perfect car that's like exciting enough that someone's going to want to rent, that's still affordable enough that we can make it work. So like over the years, we've had an Alpha 4C, a 68 Ford Fairlane, 73 BMW 2002, 86 911, C8 Corvette Z06.
I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
I never got to drive it, but yeah.
And then now, and then we got a BMW M2. And then now we have the 997 cab, speed yellow manual.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I guess the idea is just kind of like interesting enthusiast cars that people might not own or like want to own, but they're not available in a traditional rental fleet. So before buying the 997 cab, I made sure there was not one on Turo.
Yeah.
So
Smart.
The problem in the past, we had the 4C.
Yeah.
And at first when we got it, there was like none on Turo. And that was that kind of random enthusiast car that like everyone wanted to drive, but no one wanted to buy. So it's like, that's the perfect, that's like the Venn diagram, boom. And then a bunch of them flooded Turo and it wasn't unique enough. And so now with the 997, I realized there were a lot of cool cars on Turo, a lot of cool manual cars on Turo. And it's like, ooh, they're all gone. I wonder where they went. All the owners realized that people would thrash them, and I'm sure every one of their clutches is gone.
Yeah.
So now I've realized that it used to be like, oh, well, there's 20 Porsches on Turo that I can rent that are manual.
Yeah.
And I went recently before buying this 997, and there were 0 911s on Turo with a manual transmission.
Interesting.
A couple Caymans, Boxers, but no 911s.
Yeah.
And so now the goal is like, okay, cool. What's that unique car? That'll be fun. And then we're going to keep flipping them. So this 997 we'll keep for 8-9 months. We'll keep it down here. Then we'll bring it up to San Francisco for our members up there. And then I'm already hunting for the next one.
Sure. It makes sense. I mean, and it does fill that void. And I would think also on a car like that, for example, you would at least expect that if you have to be a member to rent it. So you kind of know you're part of this community.
Yeah.
You're going to be a little more respectful to the vehicle that you're renting, because if you do completely, bring it back with no clutch, no tires left or whatever, they actually have to look you in the face and be like, hey man, here you go. It's not some random kid at a counter, at a rental place or whatever. So I feel like there's a little bit of a safer bet. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some of these members just thrash the shit out of it anyway.
So far, you're right. Everyone's definitely respectful. And
that's good.
The last straw we had the 4C.
Yeah.
And we had it on Turo.
Yeah.
When members weren't using it. And the last straw was this guy rented it. And he's like an interesting character when he picked it up. Didn't want to judge a book by its cover. But we had a tracker in it. And I had an alert on my phone to alert me anytime it went over, I think it was like 110 miles an hour, I think I put. And I was like out at dinner. It was like a Saturday night. He was renting it for the weekend. And I got an alert and he was going 135 in Nevada. And he had rented it. He's like, oh, I'm just going to a wedding in LA. So I'm like watching it on the little like screen of my phone going 135. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Wow.
So yeah, now it's a little, the trust tree of the members.
Yeah.
A little easier to manage.
Yeah.
That's cool. Because I'm trying to think of, is there an equivalent in like the sneaker world? And I don't think there's like a rental. There's been people that have tried the sneaker rental thing.
Like the rent the runway or
Rent the
something.
runway. Yeah, but it just doesn't, I don't know if it works for men for men's fashion, like,
I don't know. They tried that with watches too, where you could rent a Rolex or whatever for an event, and I don't know. Maybe it's the male ego. Like they don't feel right. Well, no, there's some people that'll happily rent something and pretend it's theirs. But I don't know. That's an interesting thing that hasn't been done.
The thing that I'm curious about though, Mike, is why do you think there's some cars that they asked for, but then when you got them, they didn't drive them?
It's a good question. I'm still figuring that out. Like I think some it's the idea of the car, but then the economics don't work out. So it's like, oh, this car would be cool, but in order for me to rent it out, it would have to be X dollars. Like, if I have to charge $300 a day, and that person's like, oh, I want to drive it, but I'm only willing to spend $150.
Right.
Gotcha.
So that's why it's this like interesting math, calculation where it's like the cool factor, but the price is just right.
Yeah.
And so like when we bought the Corvette Z06, I was like, I'm going to price this way lower than it should be, just because like I want to create that like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And it worked for a little bit. And then it was like winter and no one wanted to drive it. And like, oh, like I'll wait till the weather's perfect.
Yeah.
And then I realized when the car's like too nice, then people are like too scared to drive it.
Gotcha.
So that's why now I'm kind of going back to the like, okay, cool. I got a 997 with 153,000 miles, non-original paint. And it's just like, okay, cool. People are like, I don't mind driving this one.
Right.
But like a brand new Z06 was kind of like, everything needs to be perfect. And,
Yeah, I don't want to mess anything up. I don't want to be the guy that scratches it. Okay, yeah. Okay.
I could definitely see getting into a car and feeling hesitant to do much if it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
But if I get into a car that I feel like I know the person that's behind it, and it's like, oh, this has got a little bit of Jacques' character, a little bit of Eric's character, and has that kind of love, let's say.
It's weathered a little bit.
Then it's like, oh, like I don't feel bad like driving it.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, where I could see how it could be.
What would you say with the success of the motoring club, and obviously talking about cars and kicks and everything, and we asked this question earlier with like Erik Hendricks. We had him on a recent episode, and what was a purchase or something that you did sneaker wise, car wise, or whatever, when you finally started to see a little bit of success here? Is there something you went out and spoiled yourself with, or are you still kind of hesitant to do that?
Still hesitant to do that. And I think on the sneaker side, it's a little easier.
Sure.
Lower price point, a little easier.
A little bit.
So the one that sticks out to me that was like the spoil purchase.
Yeah.
Like I think it was like the earlier years of like waiting in lines. I was like a stickler for like I gotta pay retail.
Box
Like,
price.
I hated paying. Oh, the lights are on a timer.
It's all right. It'll look a little bit different. We're almost done here anyway. So yeah.
So like I would always have that number. I'm like, I'm never spending more than like $300 on a pair. That's always been my number.
Yeah.
And so in the old club location, we were lucky enough, we shot LeBron's show, The Shop, a bunch of times. I think we did like 8-10 episodes. And the Air Max 1 Animal Pack was always on top of my list. And I missed out on the release. And LeBron walks in to film an episode. He's just wearing like sweatpants, sweatsuit. He's wearing and while he was filming, I went on StockX and I bought it. And that was the one where I was like, you know what? I've
made it. LeBron is in my place.
Filming in the club.
Yeah.
He's wearing my dream Air Max 1s. I'm going to treat myself.
Dude,
so I got
that's
those.
awesome.
And then car wise, I'm still not at the level to buy the stuff that I want. But the good news is with the business, I can buy cars for the business, for the members.
Yeah.
So I'm now scratching the itch of car buying through the fleet.
Yeah.
So
Got it.
I've always wanted a 997.
Yep.
So buying the car that's an actual business decision feels great.
Yeah.
And then for the silly stuff, I love K trucks, like the Japanese trucks. So I just bought my third.
You bought
But
one up in San Fran,
it's
right?
For the business.
Yeah.
So both coffee shops have a table made out of the back of a K truck.
That's
So
awesome.
I have one in each, and then I bought a 1992 Subaru Sandbar fire truck,
That's the one I saw you post
which
recently.
is
Yeah.
out there, and that's heading to our fabricator, and he's going to turn it into a mobile coffee truck.
Oh,
that's cool.
Awesome.
That was one of those things I was like, I always loved these tiny fire trucks. And then I saw one, I went to Japan recently, and we were thinking about, okay, as the coffee brand grows, should we do a mobile option? There's a lot of car events,
Yeah.
a lot
Oh,
of brands
yeah,
who
yeah.
have asked us to do mobile vending at the events. We've never been able to. And so I was like, all right, if we're going to do mobile, we got to do it with our own spin. We got to do
Sure.
something cool. And it would be a lot easier to build a Sprinter van truck, for coffee.
course.
But I was like, we've never done the most practical things. So
Yeah.
let's do something fun and let's build it out of a fire truck. So
That's very
awesome.
cool.
that's
man.
the latest one that is about to be transformed. I'm pretty excited for.
That's very cool. Well, before we go, is there any? You probably can't, but I'm going to ask a question anyway. Are there any other locations, any other things opening up in the near future that you can talk about, or is it all still under wraps?
All still under wraps.
Okay.
But I can say that I'm actively looking for other locations.
Uh huh.
And there's a lot of different directions I could go.
Yeah.
So obviously the second location I chose San Francisco, and that was a combination of a personal thing. I lived in San Francisco for 6 years, from 2009 to 15. So had a personal connection there, had a network up there. And it was also getting trashed in the media during COVID.
Yeah,
and
it
I was
was.
like, you know what? This city is a great city. It's going to rebound, and there's got to be opportunities there.
Yeah.
So that was an easy one. And I was like, it's in California, easy
Yep.
to get to. And so, as I think about the growth of the club and the coffee brand, it's, do we go to a different state, Or,
I'm just saying, I happen to live in another
I don't know,
state.
Texas or,
Don't get him started, Michael, please.
But I
Please.
think the idea is keep it for now in California and
Yeah.
grow around the two hubs, Northern California, Southern California.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest challenge for me is, we get approached all the time by real estate people, developers.
Sure.
They're like, oh, we have this new apartment building with a perfect coffee shop location. I'm like, we're not your average coffee shop.
Right.
I need the building to have character. I need it to be old. So, I'm constantly hunting for cool real estate deals. So it's one of those things where I have my, feelers out to a lot of different places and
Yeah.
just waiting for if that one perfect spot is here versus here, so be it.
Sure.
So I'm kind of open. So it's kind of fun, but nothing inked right now. Still just looking.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Well, again, I know I speak for all three of us, but it was amazing to finally have you on as a guest. But also, I don't want to say more importantly, but equally importantly, thank you for opening up the place for
Yes,
us while we're
100%.
here to do this. It really means more than you know, and I really appreciate it. So thank you again for that.
Yeah.
And I hope it's not the last time. Let's figure out ways we can do more of this stuff together, because I feel like the synergy is there.
Yeah, the vibes
Let's
here are
make it a
great.
series.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thanks for having
Jacques.
me.
I'm Jacques Slade. Thank you guys for watching the Cars and Kicks podcast.
Nick Engvall.
I'm Erik Valdez. We're just gonna make these outros as awkward as possible.
Just as awkward as we possibly
That's
can.
just that's the thing we're doing. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you.
Peace.
Peace.